English is nice when it is in the right context, just like any other language. Por ejemplo, habría estado ridículo si yo comenzaré a hablar español ahora, ¿no? As someone who loves the English language to an almost unhealthy degree, I can tell you that no one hates to say this as much as I do, but there is a time and a place for English. You hear it all the time. Newscasters, movies, those children's cartoons you watch, Friends, what do they all have in common? I mean, besides all being fictional. Now, I'm generally of the mind that people should speak as clearly, concisely, and understandably as possible, so it might seem strange for me to advocate for the extraordinary form of the Mass, which is, in a language I am not fluent in, is longer than the Novus Ordo, and where the priests rarely speak in layman's terms, even in the sermons. But let me walk you through my reasoning. When you sit down in your modern church for a Novus Ordo Mass and the priest comes out like he's Ranch Wilder, and Jesus makes it into the infield, he shoots, he scores, count that as a saved soul, Bob. Definitely, Ranch, the other team is going to be feeling that in the morning. How right you are, but Jesus isn't waiting around, he's moving in for another goal, he shoots, he scores. It sort of lessens the impact when it is so similar to everything in popular culture. What makes it different? Because you get to go to heaven afterwards? The jury's still out on that one. I've heard some people say that they are better able to participate in Mass at the Novus Ordo. In response to that, let me just reiterate what I said in a previous video. Participation doesn't matter. Scrap it. Get rid of it. Sure, being present during the Mass is important and prayer matters, but someone I knew once gave me this riddle. If a Catholic and a Jew both went to a Catholic Mass, and the Jew made sure to follow everything in the little booklet, all of the reverences and everything, and the Catholic just sat in his pew, who participated more? The answer? The Jew is incapable of participation in the Mass because he is not in communion with the Catholic Church. So, the fact that it is in English may help with understanding, but not with participation, since participation is like Gatorade. Delicious, but unnecessary and, at this point, a bit too sugary to be healthy at all. Now, a lot of people like English in the Mass because they say it makes it easier to understand what is going on, but most of these people still don't understand what's going on. Let me explain. A lot of these people believe that the host is Jesus Christ, which I can't fault them for since I happen to believe that since the big man said it himself. Then they go and receive communion on the hand, maximizing the risk of dropping him onto the floor where people will be blundering through. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt though. Maybe they receive on the tongue, maximizing the safety of the host, in which case, do they still understand what's going on? Bread turning into the Son of God, who is also God, who saved the world by dying on the cross. I consider myself somewhat of a good student in Catholicism, and even I don't understand that. It's called the mystery of faith, and not the easily understood answer of faith. For a reason, because we'll solve it when we get to the bottom of it by getting to the bottom of a grave. But enough about the mystery of faith, we're talking about the English and Latin Masses. By the way, that reminds me, to call it the Latin Mass is actually incorrect. It is the extraordinary form. I don't like calling it the Latin Mass because it is kind of like calling beer gross wine. They both may have alcohol, but they are two very different things. Now, I wouldn't have such an unpleasant reaction towards the Novus Ordo Mass if they had simply translated the extraordinary form into the vernacular. It's the fact that they invited Protestants to weigh in on how the Novus Ordo should be made. That's like inviting a marine biologist to weigh in on the creation of a new flavor of bubblegum. The biologist may occasionally have something to do with that gum, but the biologist likely has no experience being in charge of the thing. But I guess this gets at the deeper issue of people feeling entitled to their opinion on matters that they know nothing about. This might be because people forget that theology is a legitimate area of study, and not just something that a person can go into if they want to avoid doing any real research. But with the growing number of theologians being brain-dead idiots with no respect for the truth, it is really no wonder why people see theology the way they do. En conclusion, inglés es bueno si está en el contexto correcto. Si no está, entonces estás estando estúpido, pendejo.